so I'll run 25 miles and then the next day run 27 miles all on trail. Of course, the pace is slower. So my
Mhm.
comfortable pace on road is like 8:30, 8:40. So a good heart rate. So 8:30, 8:40. In the trails, it can be 9:30 to 10:30, depending on
Yeah.
what you're running and the elevation. But as we know as runners, hill work is speed work in disguise. When I was focusing on trying to run a BQ, I was constantly getting injured because I was doing speed work and repeats and beating my body up in a different way with my ultras and trail running. I'm putting in, I think the max is usually 75, 78 miles a week. So averaging, 50 to 70 miles a week. When I'm training for a marathon, it's a lot less. But again,
Yeah.
back to trails, I don't do speed work.
Welcome, Crystal. Great to have you on this pod.
Thanks for having me.
Great. Let's start with a quick introduction. If you want to share a little bit about your background.
Oh gosh. I started as a marathon runner back in, oh gosh, what year was that? 13. And since that time, I have progressed into ultra running, and more dipping my toe back into the road marathon circuit, running Boston this past year because I qualified for the first time in my lifetime. So had to go back and back to Boston as a qualified runner. But yeah, my journey really now is focused on ultras and trail running. But was excited to be back on the road, experiencing Boston, and back in that. It's such a different environment. It's
That is true. Was that your is 2025 or your first Boston?
no, I ran Boston in 2015.
You did. Okay.
I was gifted a bib from one of the marathon bombing victims. I used
Oh,
to be a Watertown police officer.
okay. Thanks for your service.
It was only a couple of years. I had since left the police department, but they had Jeff Bauman, who lost his legs at the finish line, had gifted a couple of the bibs to my former colleagues, and they didn't want them to go to waste. What they had said, reached out to me, and they're like, "You're the only crazy human that we know can run 26 miles in short notice." And I
Yeah.
said, "Actually, I'm already training for another marathon." I had run the Paris Marathon and then 8 days later ran Boston.
Yeah. Because Paris is also a spring marathon too, right? That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So since 2015, that was a long journey to
Mhm.
qualify for Boston, and you ran this year's Boston as a qualified or BQ runner. So take us to the journey. I think it was interesting, some bumps in the road as well, right? Yeah.
Oh, yes. So when I started my marathon journey, of course, I think most runners want to achieve Boston qualifying times to get in without having to raise money for charity, which is also a great cause, but a full time job. So I would toe the line, multiple marathons, and my training would go well. And I'd show up to the race and blow up, like, fail, 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 fail. And but what I mean by failure, it was more like the internal battles. I would go out too fast, not execute my splits properly. But as a novice runner, there's a lot to learn in those journeys. And sometimes naturally people just have the flow of running for 26 miles with, that even flow and they know how to execute. Others like myself struggled a bit mentally towing the line going, I know I'm in fitness, or maybe I've trained too hard in the last few months of my training. My heart rate might have been too high. Coming into the race, maybe a bit more fatigued. And again, a novice runner may not know those types of things leading up to I'm putting in that 26.2 effort because it is a long time to run. It's a long distance and
Right.
so many things can go wrong.
Yeah.
So I ended up kind of, I don't want to say falling out of love with running, but the battle internally, I was just like, why am I going to put this time in and fail again and again and again? So I was in that negative headspace and I was like, oh, I'll try something different. So I signed up for the Vermont 50
Ah,
and in 2014, and so that's September 2014, I ran my first ultra, a 50 miler, and
cool.
I found the love of running again because with trail running, you have to train on trails. So it
Yeah.
gets you out of the monotony of running on roads, dodging traffic, the overstimulation, and then getting on trail. And then putting in the longer efforts, the longer miles, it just builds a different mentality, mental strength, So going into Big Sur last year, so 2024, I signed up for the lottery at Big Sur, just threw my hat in the ring. I have never run Big Sur before, and it looked beautiful
Yeah.
and mountain-esque, and there's 1,800 feet, about 1,800 feet of elevation. And I said, I'll put my toe in for that. Got in, and my best friend and I went out to California to run, and I didn't look at my watch. I toed the line, didn't look at my watch, and I ran a Boston qualifying time without even knowing because the effort. Now that I run 100 milers, 50 milers, what like 50 Ks, the effort and the mentality of the mental tough and fortitude in your brain, it just became a lot simpler for me to digest and put myself in that pain cave that everybody loves to talk about. But I
Hmm.
actually figured it out, and it took a long time and a lot of other things in my running journey for me personally to get to a Boston qualifying time, to put myself in that position of pain. Because running a Boston qualifying time, I'm in my 40s, even that is still a fast time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, and it's something that you have to mentally be able to push through or train to. Again, some people are more natural in that pace. Others, like myself, have to work for it.
Interesting. Did you went into Big Sur that this would be all I'll put in effort to do a BQ? No,
Nope.
no. Yeah.
I'm just gonna run, and mentally said to myself, make sure you look around, because so often in road marathons, I think when you're running at a faster pace, you're not sightseeing.
Right. Right.
But the views at Big Sur are hard to ignore, and if you're ignoring the views or the experience, you're doing it wrong, especially at Big Sur, because it's just the mountains kiss the ocean. It is just a beautiful course. There's a pianist on the course playing
Uh-huh.
music, and I'm like, "Wow." So, I mentally went to that race and was, if I had, I wasn't not trying to run a BQ, but it wasn't my focus. I was like, let's enjoy this. I haven't run a road marathon in such a long time. Let's, toe the line, push my body, see what I can do. And I purposely did not look at my watch because I didn't want to be focusing on, well, now I'm off pace or I'm going too fast. I ran by feel and by what my heart rate was feeling. Again, now that I'm more of a seasoned runner, I
Mhm.
can evaluate my heart rate without even looking at my watch. I can guesstimate where my rage is. I'm pushing too hard. I'm not pushing hard enough. Hills. Am I in, lay back off the hill a little bit and then try to increase as you go up. Like those are the things I was mentally telling myself without looking at the data.
No, that makes total sense. So before you picked up ultra or the trail running, Crystal, how many attempts you had for BQ or
Oh,
Boston
I was
before
running
you?
like
Yeah.
4 marathons a year,
Oh, you okay? Okay.
and again, running longer distances now, it takes a toll. Trying to run fast marathons 4 times a year as
Yeah.
a non-elite runner, again, that's why I think mentally I was like, I am pushing myself, and for me personally, pushing myself in an area where I am setting myself up for failure. Trying to like I didn't BQ and immediately looking for another race, even 2, 3 weeks later. And again, it was more for me, backing away from the mental challenge of I have to do this. So it started becoming like, yeah, we have goals, but it started becoming more like a burden or a job. And it was,
Yeah. Uh,
and that's why I say when I fell out of road running, like I fell out of love with it. I'm like, I am doing something wrong. And nobody wants to fail repeatedly. Failure is part of the journey. I
mhm.
mean, we all fail and that's how you learn. But the repetitive failure, it was almost like I was just setting myself up repeatedly multiple times a year for that failure, and it just doesn't feel good.
Yeah, yeah. Now, since you've done both side, and I think your story is a testimony of that. Trail running actually helped you,
Mm?
easily go through the Big Q in Big Sur last year. I'll be curious if you want to compare those two kinds of running, because I think they're both running, but
Mm.
there are some subtle differences, kind of way you plan for it, you know, train for it, or kind of preparedness you have to have those to run trail run versus a road race. It's still different. What's your experience like?
So for ultras, so I ran a 100 miler 2 weeks before Boston,
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and
Okay.
so I ran Umstead 100. It's not technical, and I think there's could be misquoting, about 9,000 feet of gained elevation. It's in a state park, so there's no like rocks, roots, like technical crazy. It's more just focus on running and run. And with a lot of ultras, there's a my running mentor, Sean Daler, always put in my head with ultras, there are two people that run hills,
Uh-huh.
and ultras, elites, and idiots, and I am not
Yeah.
either of those. For example, when I ran the Vermont 100 last summer, that has about 17,000 feet of gained elevation. You're hiking, but you're hiking with a purpose. And the differences in my training, I do double back-to-back long runs on the weekends. So I'll run 25 miles and then the next day run 27 miles all on trail. Of course, the pace is slower. So my
Mhm.
comfortable pace on road is like 8:30, 8:40. So a good heart rate. So 8:30, 8:40. In the trails, it can be 9:30 to 10:30, depending on
Yeah.
where you're running and the elevation. But as we know as runners, hill work is speed work in disguise. So with trail running and training for ultras, I don't do speed work. Sometimes I'll naturally run a tempo. Again, being that I have more time as a runner, like even more, capability of feeling my heart rate without looking, I'll kind of put in little workouts just naturally.
Yeah.
Some days I run faster because I'm stressed out at work, or you're just having a bad day, and so you end up running faster, or the weather is crappy, and so you run faster. You're like, This rain's terrible. It's freezing." Your body wants to run an 8-minute mile today, but
Mhm.
with my trail running, which I think you're hitting a good point. When I was focusing on trying to run a BQ, I was constantly getting injured because I was doing speed work and repeats and beating my body up in a different way with my ultras and trail running. I'm putting in, I think the max is usually 75 to 78 miles a week. So averaging, 50 to 70 miles a week. When I'm training for a marathon, it's a lot less. But again,
Yeah.
back to trails, I don't do speed work. I don't. I put
I
the
see.
miles in. And again, back to the miles and the time and running, 100 milers at, 19 and 20 hours at a stint. When I'm towing the line and putting the pressure on myself to run a shorter distance, literally, the mantra in my head is, "It's only gonna be 3 hours and change, just run." Like, it's
Right. Right.
only and I always preface to my running friends, I'm like, "I'm not trying to sound arrogant," but in my brain where I have run such, almost 4 marathons at once,
Uh-huh.
like, it's just this, it's just that, and you compartmentalize those miles that you're in. And I think a lot of runners do that in a race, like, "I'm in this mile, I'm in this moment, reach, 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 reach." And you'd be surprised, running Amstead 100 took me 19 hours and 35 minutes. It's my personal best,
Oh, wow.
but it goes by so fast. Even though it hurts so bad, you
Yeah.
just it goes by so fast, and people are like, "Do you listen to music? How do you keep yourself, entertained, occupied?" I'm like, "I'm running 100 miles. There's plenty to keep me entertained. Like,
Yeah. You have to
I don't
find
need music.
something. Yeah. Yeah. To keep you entertained there.
There's always something."
You hit a good point. It reminds me, I had a conversation with, I think, Sean Rutherford of Train S1 from London, I think. Um, he's the founder of that company. And one of the things that he said, Kamal, you can run a marathon, train with the longest run at 16 miles, and I can prove you with data. Again, it customize with your own body that you can actually achieve that. But he said it's possible. You don't have to kill yourself. And his point was most of the injury happens on the speed workouts or the hill workouts people do go fast. It's
Mhm.
like his goal is to run injury free. I think it's time primary driving factor. And he was a physician in by background when he started that one. And that reminds me, I think you mentioned that most of the times you're going hard and hard on the in the track running or hill workout, and you get the injuries. It's not the long runs that you pretty much because you are running in a normal pace.
I pulled my calf, I tore my calf, and because for me, I'm a runner that runs with my calves versus my glutes,
Hmm.
so I was very prone to those types of injuries. So, I have the speed, I'm vertically challenged, so I'm only 5'2", so I'm naturally built to sprint, but, when I do it, my body is like, "I don't think so."
Cool. So Walk us to your race day experience. You qualified for Boston running Big Sur last year, and then you ran Boston as a qualifier this year. How was the race day experience? I'm sure it must have felt special.
Oh, it was very special. So I'm part of the New Bedford track team.
Oh,
So
okay.
club, we don't have a luxury bus. We rented a school bus, but
Uh,
we went together. So I was drove up with my friends, which is a very different experience from 2015. My old captain drove me to the start line in a police cruiser. So there was quite a bit different.
yeah, yeah,
It was a very different experience. So, 2025, I would take the school bus up from the New Bedford area, and then, was with my friends, and we sat in the bus, which was nice instead of having to sit in the open field at the village. And there's plenty of porta potties over with the buses, and we have our bags, our food, so it's a very relaxing experience when you get to do a bus that way, and you have
mhm,
shelter. The weather was actually pretty perfect this year, but, we know Boston, it can be, 100 degrees, it can be
yep,
raining 30 degrees. So having the shelter is nice and your friends to hang out with and chat with and keep the nerves down. Now, again, back to being, an ultra runner, I don't get I get everyone gets a little bit nervous, but my race day jitters, maybe again, not to sound arrogant, but I'm like, I know in my brain now, I'm like, I can do this. If everything goes well, I can complete the distance. Like, that's not the challenge. The
yeah.
challenge, like, how is your day going to go? So, like, the unknowns, I think, are what kind of, make me a little bit nervous, but I don't really get like the race day, like, complete meltdown jitters anymore, which is nice. And then, walking again, I didn't walk through the village the last time I ran Boston. I was like when my friends are like, "This is a long walk." And I'm like, "Not joking." I'm like, "We're
yeah.
still walking." We're still walking, we're still walking, we're still walking. And one of my friends, I was in the blue wave. So I think I was corral 2 and other friends were 6 and 4. So, I was giving them hugs as they're peeling off and
Yeah.
now I go up to my corral and it was quite organized. I didn't have to use the porta potties on the way to the race, start, but it looked like that was I mean, busy, but it looked like it was well organized. And
Yeah.
then the corral system itself, way better experience than London because I ran London 6 days later.
Oh, you did. Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yeah, so I had a busy April, but
Yeah.
yeah, running London 6 days later and experiencing, having the most starters and finishers of a marathon in the world because we
Mhm.
made the Guinness Book of World Records.
Yeah.
Um Now, like, reflecting on London and Boston experience, London really needs to fix some things, but Boston is just it was a seamless experience. Once the gun is sounded, I was able to it's congested, the first,
Right.
you know, 2 miles or so, but then I was able to run my own pace. Not really a lot of dodging and weaving, just more like looking down, making sure you're not falling over train tracks or potholes. I did see a few people fall,
Oh,
because
okay.
of road hazards. But no, it's such a great smooth experience. I feel like Boston has it. Uh, Boston and I think even New York, I would say. I ran, New York, some years ago. Uh, that they have their systems, ironed out very precisely and allows each runner's, corral and wave to run appropriately, which is nice because a lot of people are trying to qualify again for Boston at Boston,
Yeah.
which luckily I was able to accomplish. I was
Oh,
shocked. 2 weeks after running 100 and I got a PR by like 2 minutes.
oh, wow. That's
I
awesome.
got
Congrats. What time is your
unexpected.
start was at? So by the time you reached the village and your start, what was the gap? Was it a couple of hours or is it minutes?
So when I got into the corral versus it was like
Get out of the bus versus when you started.
I would say it was less than I think it was less than, like, 20 minutes. I would say, like,
Oh, okay.
because once I got in my corral, I think I was standing there for less than 10 minutes. It was not a long time. Yeah. Oh,
So,
on a side note, I did actually catch and disqualify 2 runners because there was a runner in my queue that was bib muling.
oh,
That
really?
That's a whole nother topic, but yeah, I had to look through 700 pictures, but I found them, and they got disqualified because he turned sideways and I was like, because I'm only 5'2" and the gentleman was like 6 feet, and I
Uh-huh.
was like, "You're wearing 2 bib numbers," and he pretended not to speak English and ran away.
I see.
But yeah, no, I caught him, and him and his wife got disqualified. He passed the bib off at the 30K mark, and she ran EK into the finish.
No. I remember I talked to Dave, actually, of Epic Livery of Boston, and also Frankie Louise of Miami on the same topic on my other discussion on the pod. And there is this whole effort actually goes in for the same purpose. Like, I think there's a terminology I think Frankie used to catch. And I talked to the Marathon Photos
Yep.
president too. He was also telling it, can you catch when you're taking all the photographers? But it's so many runners and then the support is a lot going on that it's tough catch.
Mhm.
But yeah, kudos to you that you're
Yep.
able to do that.
It took me
Uh,
2 weeks, but I found them, and they did it they actually cheated in Berlin to get the qualifying time for his wife. So I've emailed everybody. I am in and they did disqualify them, but I haven't heard back. I emailed the BAA, I emailed Berlin, I emailed Abbott, I emailed the marathon investigator, but I did find them. So hopefully they're barred from cheating again. So it's just I mean, and people work so hard for charity to
yes.
qualify and to take numbers from runners that are trying so hard for such a small selected pool, especially Boston, it's just I don't know, it's just so unethical.
I mean, take your example. 2015 to 10 years you
Yep,
waited to and go
yep.
as a Boston qualifier and run. Yeah, I hear you, completely hear you. Now you ran the Boston, and I think you did Ultra, the Upstead 100, and you said London right after. And since you are in the Boston area, I'll be curious your training because it's kind of different than other parts of the country. Training in the winter, it's tough. You have to
Mhm.
do a lot of planning. You're mercy of the weather. To walk us a little bit of the training part of it.
Oh, yeah. So I run outside every day I run. So there's no treadmill work for me. If it's pouring rain, if it's snowing, if it's sleeting, if it's icy, I'm outside. Trails, I have apparatuses for my shoes. I have Yak tracks. I have more intense spikes for the ice. But yes, I will not run on a treadmill.
Yeah, I know it's a love-hate relationship with the runners and the treadmills. Okay.
But for example, this past weekend, I ran an 88K in Vermont. About it was like 54 miles trail 90 oh, I'm exaggerating, probably 80% of the trail was mud up to my shins, knees, like
Or-
ankles. So, have I ever run a mud race like that before? No, but I've run in the rain, I've run with wet feet, and I ran all day in mud.
Yeah,
So, I'm like, well, so why I say that is like you never know what race day is going to bring. A lot of people that are like, for some medical reasons, people like a lot of my running friends have, is it Raynaud's, like you get cold hands. Like I understand medically why it's necessary to run on treadmills, but race day may not be perfect. It's might be 95 with 110% humidity. It could
yeah,
be pouring. When I ran my first 100, which was Umstead as well, it was sleeting. There was thunderstorms right overhead. There was a tornado warning. So you can't there's race day is not gonna be
yeah.
perfect. You get a perfect race day. Boston and London this year were a bit warm,
Hmm.
but they were perfect.
Right.
So, it wasn't raining, it wasn't snowing, you know, all those things, but you never know what race day is going to bring. So for me, it's always outside. You should see the looks I get. I run regularly in my neighborhood down the street. It's a mile around, like kind of giant cul-de-sac.
Okay.
And one year, the year it snowed like right around the Super Bowl, that was a couple of years ago. I ran 18 loops around that neighborhood, right?
Yeah,
I had
yeah,
my
yeah,
on. I literally saw people come out of their houses, their driveways weren't clear, and then, by the time I'm done running for
yeah,
hour, everyone is like they're like, "How many more loops are you gonna run?"
yeah.
And
Cool.
coincidentally, I'm like, "That's where I run to be safe," and coincidentally, in 2020, that's where I got hit by a car.
Oh, really? On the same one on my loop? Oh boy.
Yeah, I got hit by a car from behind because the woman was looking at her phone. I
Sorry
run
to hear that.
against traffic. It was yeah.
Oh, you're with the traffic. You're running on the same. Okay, I see.
No, against traffic. She came, across the street and hit me because she was looking down, and she crossed
Boy.
over the lane and hit me from
Oh my
"Why
goodness.
is there a car behind me? You should be over there." So, yeah.
I hope it was not something serious.
Yeah, just some tissue damage, but we were fine. It took 6 months to recover, but I still ran. It's fine.
Cool. One of the things I love to chat, Crystal, and I think you alluded in different parts of our conversation, something about your support system. So you're running for 10 plus years, and I'm sure you build a support system around you because I think you just said you did another 88 mile or kilometer,
Yep.
trail run too, and you do a lot of trail runs and ultras. How does your support system looks like? And then I'll be curious if you want to share and someone who's want to go in your path or try out, how does you think about building a support system around them?
So, luckily, my husband is very supportive of my race. I mean, racing, he gets a bit exhausted. I have a 13-year-old son who he's actually now running with. Our high school, middle school is together and small, so my son's able to participate in cross country, indoor track, and he's been doing that on his own. So I think I'm already leading by example.
That's
Um,
awesome.
I know.
I'm waiting for my son to pick out one of the days. He's
uh,
11, but yeah,
Oh, but
hopefully he'll
he
pick
won't
up.
run with me. I'm like, "Let's go for, like, a 2-mile run." No,
Oh, okay, okay.
he's still a teenager, so we'll get through that. My
Yeah.
husband's also athletic. He's a mountain bike rider. He does
Oh,
jujitsu.
okay.
My son also does jujitsu. But yeah, so leading by example, I have a good support system with my husband and son now, just so used to like mom's going for a run for the next 5 hours. I'll be back. And
Yeah,
so that is not unusual. It does take a toll on me and like trying to like coordinate my life because I also
yeah.
work full time. So it is a lot to balance, but for me personally, I need that. And then come to race day, for me, as a so for my 54-mile run this past weekend, I have a bunch of friends at that race, and you come through headquarters on you pass through it a few times, so I was
Mhm.
able my gear in the back of my car,
Oh, okay,
so just
okay.
pop it open, fill up my water,
Yeah.
get my fuel, talk to my friends, and then leave. So that race is structured very supportive. It's a very supportive. It's called Infinitus. It's a very supportive race. But
Mhm.
for like my 100 milers, rule of thumb, I never have my husband crew me because and I love him dearly, and some people do. Some people have their partners as their crew chief, and coordinators, and that works for them. It just I know myself and my family, I'm like, "That won't work for me." I need because my husband is not so much a runner, he's a sprinter. He'll go for, like, 5K run, but he's not a long distance runner, so
Yeah,
I need someone and people around me when I'm doing hundreds that can empathize when they need to, and then also lay the hammer down when they need to. And if my husband was laying the hammer down and I'm at mile 80 something, there's
yeah,
a full-blown domestic.
I hear you.
So, I
Yeah.
currently the last 200s I've run, so Umstead at this year and Vermont 100 last year, I used the same crew chief, my friend Kip Gibson, and, a pacer, my pacer twice, and Tara Dash. Like, she's my young chicken, she's in her 20s, I'm in my 40s. I'm, like, close to her mom's age, but she's such an old soul, and she is so good and kind. So, the team of them where Gwen is, like, the good cop and Kim can be the bad cop, and it's really great. So, especially at Umstead, I wanted to break, sub 20 I wanted to do a sub 20,
Mhm.
and I was running too fast the first few loops, because it's a 12.5-mile loop, looped course. Kim's like, "When are you gonna start to slow down?" And I was like, "Ah,"
The other
like
way around. Okay.
I'm running this race the wrong way. I should have run
Yeah,
slower to run faster." But
yeah.
again, execution sometimes doesn't always go well. And she just looks at me and she's like, "You're not gonna break sub 20." She's like, "Get your act together." So she knows when to like lay into me. And by the way, I did break sub 20, but she
So
was
you said
trying
19, right? You did 19
yeah, it was
then? Yeah, okay.
19:35,
Cool.
but she was trying to like
Yeah.
you're trying to reposition what I was doing, and it ended up working because we were, like, 7.5 no, 5 miles from finishing. Gwen, my pacer, was like, "Can I talk to you about your pace?" Again. I
Yeah,
was like, "Yeah." I was like, "What?" And so my friend back home in Plymouth she's very analytical and she follows along, and
yeah.
so she's, like, doing the numbers and texting them, and she's like, "If she can maintain this, she has that." Gwen's like, "If you stop whining and pick up your feet, you can break sub 20." So we did.
It's a big backup time.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
She's like, "Come on, you can do it." It really for me, I need the pacer, I need a crew chief. I do have friends, a couple of my friends, Tino and Ryan last year at the Vermont 100 ran solo, so
Mhm.
they had drop bags, and that works for some runners. I need the human interaction.
Mhm.
Like, especially at the 100-mile distance, you start doing, like, this hallucinating, like, 100-mile stare, and your brain doesn't really work very well. So, like, just making sure other humans are knowing that you're safe and that you
Yeah.
have the things that you need. More seasoned runners are more like I find it's more men that tend to run unsupported. Maybe their brains just it would be an interesting study if their brains are different than women, where women tend to be more empathetic and need that human interaction. And for me, I definitely do. So, huge support system. And this was actually a topic on, I think, one of the trail running pages I'm on Facebook about paying your crew's way. So,
I
like, I always pay for their flights, accommodations, food, parking at the airport. Like, it is not cheap.
I know, yeah.
Not cheap. But again, it's something that it's like I always look at it, even like when I went to the Zion 100, I'm like, this is a beautiful place to be, but you're not
Right.
on vacation. Your job is me.
Yeah.
So it's very important to have a supportive crew and to, if you can financially support them through your journey as well, because
Yeah, that's
a
awesome.
lot to ask.
Oh, yeah, and you need that too. I know it's, obviously running an ultra is, definitely not a hobby that it's a cheap hobby. It's definitely it has this, you can go, ultra or you call, make it an like extravagant as you want or versus keep it as shoestring as you want to, but it's not but in the way that you can do in a shoestring budget and as such. What's next for you, Crystal?
Oh, so I go back to the Vermont 50. We've been going for since 2015. I think I've missed running a couple of years. One, because I got a new job in 15 that I had to be away for training. And then I ran Chicago Marathon in October of 18. So I didn't run then. But I think I've run it like eight, nine times. I've run the 50 miler twice there, but I usually stick to the 50K because it's kind of how I end my race year. This year, my race calendar was kind of crazy because I got into the Umstead 100 miler on a whim. I threw my hat in the ring and got in on the second chance lottery. And then I knew I had qualified for Boston. So that was on the docket already. And then I got into London 2 months prior to London. So I wasn't expecting to get into London because I went
Uh-huh.
through marathon tours and they had an
Oh, you
extra.
did. Okay, okay.
Yep, and they reached out and I was like, "I can't pass this opportunity up." I've been trying to get into London for, like, a decade, and then I had already signed up for the 88K this past weekend in May, so it's just coincidental that everything for my race calendar was shoved into, like, a month and a half, and then I will finish my year, with the Vermont 50K. It's just a beautiful, fun race. It's beautiful in Vermont in the fall, and we have, a lot of friends that go back because it's a mountain bike race as well. So it's a great race to attend and kind of just relax. And I don't normally have any goals going into that race. And subsequently, was it 2 years ago? I ended up winning the 50K female because the elite runners didn't show up because it's supposed to rain. I'm not downplaying my victory, but when I was told I was first place female, like a few miles,
Yay. Yeah.
I actually like cussed at the guy. I was like, "What are you talking about? First place?"
Yeah, yeah.
I was, because there's usually a lot of, elite runners that go to the 50K and they can hammer the 50K out in, like, 4.5 hours.
Oh,
So,
wow.
I've not achieved that level of speed on the 50K on that course. So, it's pretty impressive. So that
Yeah,
was
if it's a fall race and it's in Vermont, yeah, I think you can enjoy quite a bit during that
oh, it's
50
it's
miles
so
for sure.
beautiful.
Ha
Yeah. So,
have you
yeah.
have you got the World Marathon Majors bug yet or no? I think you said
Um,
it's in New York, Boston, Chicago, as well as
on
London
Berlin.
and Berlin.
Technically
Oh, okay.
I only have Tokyo left of the original 6.
6, okay.
I already family and I actually went to Africa last summer, and so I already know personally I would not run a marathon in Africa. It's South Africa, we went to
Right.
Tanzania, different parts. Africa to me, I'm like, if you're gonna go to Africa, I wanna, like, enjoy the vacation and not throw a run in there. Because for me personally, if I'm racing, it makes the vacation part um,
Yeah, I
quite
know what you mean. Yeah, yep.
different. And then I'm actually going to Australia in 2027, but for a personal vacation. again, traveling that far around the world, maybe when I'm retired, but Tokyo, I'm still questioning because my experience in London was quite overwhelming, and it just reinforces that I am more a trail runner.
I see.
I
Mhm.
enjoy trail running etiquette, and, you find that, I was actually made a comment because I got hit in the face by a woman because she was taking a photo op. So
Uh-huh.
she threw her arms out and smacked me across the
Oh
face
boy.
in
Okay.
London, and I posted about it on a Facebook page. Of course, there was trolls, but my point of saying this is they were like, "Oh, well, you should expect that," and I'm like, "Oh gosh, no, well, I don't wanna be hit in the face while I'm running anything." So, in Tokyo, I hear, is even more congested, and I just don't know if that's a right fit for me in this current state of my life. I'm like, I don't know if I'll wait a little bit to run Tokyo, but I feel very grateful that I got to run London because that was definitely on the list, and Boston as a qualifier. Chicago, Berlin, and, New York were also wonderful experiences. But so I'm like, I don't know. Right now, for me, I'm chasing a Western States entry.
Okay.
So my friend Sean got to run last year, and it took him 9 years to get in. So, and with that, you have to run a qualifying 100 miler every
And
year to put
oh,
in for the lottery.
is there a time there too on the qualifying 100-mile run?
So you just have to finish the race
Like
within the
finish. Okay.
qualifying within the time that the race allots.
Ah, okay. Okay.
And then, of course, as you know, in the running circuit, every year people are challenging themselves to greater distances. So every year
Yep.
there's more people putting in for those lotteries. Boston and Western states, all those types of things are still a factor. In Western states, I think they only pull around 220 tickets, and you have
Oh,
thousands of runners.
okay. Okay. I
So,
see.
like, right now, that's my focus. So, I think I would like to go to Tokyo and run. The problem is I would like to take my son, but he has school in March, so he doesn't have March break. So, I think I'd feel guilty if my husband and I went to Tokyo without him. So, there's a
Yeah.
lot to consider there. Not the top of the list, but definitely I would, now that I'm one short of the 6 originals, I'm like, it's kind of something I'm like, I should do.
Yeah, I did take my son off the school. My wife was not definitely happy. In 2022, I did the Tokyo. Yeah,
So,
that time
what
I
was
did.
your experience?
I didn't. I
Tell me
didn't
more.
have. It was great. I mean, it was just. I think they canceled or only the elites run the 2021. So 2022 is the first time. Still, the COVID restrictions are there, so it's too much restrictions. So
Mhm.
if you're looking for like what not to happen like in London, so probably I went in the right place that time because still have the distance and people wearing masks to the start and then you can take it off, but you have to put it back on the finish line. But people are, and again, there is everything is so well organized and goes everything on time. Things move pretty smooth. We stayed there for a week and covered quite aspects of Tokyo around Tokyo too. So my son had a ball and no school, so that's fun. But I hear your point of combining a race because it's all revolves around how you plan things around. We happen to have friends there in Tokyo. We can catch up, so it was
Oh,
great. And
oh,
my
that's
my
wonderful.
wife has some colleagues, so it was good to catch up a lot of things. And pretty much every night we had dinner with somebody new, so it was just a lot of fun. So if you can combine all these aspects, I think it can be a great experience too. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate your feedback. And how old was your son when you took him?
So it was 2022. He's a sixth grader now, so a third grader.
And he
Yeah,
and he really enjoyed it? Oh,
yeah, yeah. He had a lot of fun. I mean, if you are into Nintendo and also, it's a heaven for kids. Yeah. Over the Disney World there too. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So combine a lot of activities for kids and for us as much as you can. Yeah.
I like that feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, and hopefully your son can enjoy it. I think there are a lot of things to do for everyone there in Tokyo too, and then the food experience can be amazing if you are into
Oh,
food.
I love food.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was great catching up with you, Crystal. Thanks for sharing your journey and story. And your story is very unique. And glad to hear that you did BQ without realizing that you did BQ and actually enjoyed it. So thank you. Great to have you on the pod.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for your time.